Hi. Hello there. You mind if I sit down with you for a second? Of course. You see, I saw you there and you just seemed like you're a bit lonely. I mean, I can't entirely blame you. New Year's by yourself can leave an impression on you. Don't worry, I'm not being creepy or anything, I just know from experience. You know, when you're just a guy, you're alone, don't have much money, no girlfriend. It's a peaceful life, to be honest, but it does get lonely from time to time. Oh, am I boring you with my rambling? Please forgive me. I'll get up and leave right now if I'm boring you, but... Oh. I'm not boring you? Oh, well then. I guess we could just share a drink and sit and just chat and stare at each other, but... So, young man. Or lady, I can't really tell with that mask on. So, what do you want to do? Oh, it sure feels nice to have a nice soda after a while. So, you're wondering why I'm wearing this uniform. Well, it's a long story. It goes back to about 100 years ago, back in the 22nd century. Ah, good times. Met a good woman during that time. Name, Philomena. Best friend, Natalia. They, of course, all passed away now. People I genuinely miss. Unlike my old boss, Enery. She can rot in that grave where she belongs, after all. I already had my fair share of her when I served her as one of her top servants and enforcers. The only reason I wear this iron cross on my uniform is because, well, it reminds me of a best friend I used to have back in the day. And of course it has nothing to do with Germany because, well, Germany doesn't exist anymore. And I'm still part of the interstellar hyperpower, which used to be called the United States, but now has basically become a galactic empire. I still remember the rise of the empire and how it rose. Real quiet. And some of us have treasonous thoughts, maybe, but none of us have the will to act on it. They even created a planet-glassing superweapon, believe it or not. Although I wonder if the scientists who worked on that magic-induced weapon did it because they, well, got a bit carried away and were fans of George Lucas or something from some 1970s movie. Good movie if I say so myself, even though George Lucas never directed it. Definitely better than the lady that took after him. But sometimes it's just remembering these things makes me feel old. Like, you know, like I'm already 300 years old, being a kitsune and whatnot. And weird for a kitsune because, well, you know, I look like a fennec fox and my ears look like French bread. What even is France, anyway? Is it some historical country that used to exist? Never mind. It seems all humanity has been, or Earth, seems to have been subjugated under one country now. And well, the first hyperpower itself. But is an empire really that bad? I mean, if you have control over everything, you can at least enforce some regulations or rules. But it seems our leaders, if you can even call them leaders, seem to be more interested in enriching themselves at the expense of everyone else. That's why I try to do the right thing, even though I'm not always able to do that to the degree I want to. Of course, I'm rambling about life because I have no one to talk to this about. Just being a lonely Fennec fox. I also kind of miss my life back in the Kitsune Clan when I used to live there, even though I grew up during the Great Depression in the 1920s and 30s. Garbage times, if I say so myself. Made some bad decisions here and there. Stuff I've regretted ever since, like, oh, I don't know, buying a book with gardening tools on it with a hammer and sickle and realizing the leaders of that party had no interest in actually serving the well-being of the party ideology, but just using it to enrich themselves, just like the capitalists at the time. After all, what is capitalism anyway, except the worship of money above all else? And no, I am not a communist. I'm just someone who believes in generosity and people should be given what they're due. Is that so much to ask in a world where we have basic common sense between ordinary people? I would sure hope so. But it seems even common sense is lacking these days. Meanwhile, I'm having this conversation with some stranger at a bar. Funny, ain't it? But hey, at least my old boss's son is still around. Even if we don't know each other all that well, and my old boss's sister is still alive. She's probably about 1,000 years old now. Probably one of the last people that still remembers the Middle Ages when she grew up back then. It's almost hard to believe the Kitsunes used to grow up in the old time ago and are probably some of the only vestiges of the old world before the Galactic Empire took over. Or rather, the American Galactic Empire. Because when you think about it, why do we need these planet-glassing superweapons if we're just meant to protect our planets and trade routes? It just doesn't make any sense. You can get away with that with just standard destroyers and cruisers. But for whatever reason, the military wants to invest in these world-destroying superweapons, no matter how wasteful of resources they actually are, and that you can do the whole same thing with much less resources, just using a bunch of nuclear weapons on regular orbital bombardment. But it's like all tyrannies. It's inherently unstable. Just like Vladimir Squidovich, the leader of the Communist Party in the Kitsune clan back in the 1930s. Who, of course, after he died, a sewer line broke and buried his own body in sewage. Just like Vladimir Lenin. Oh, I'm rambling again. What has my life come to? I mean, I'm always trying to do the right thing, and it seems I always get punished for it. Like exterminating an evil king whose only desire was to subjugate the world to himself and to worship himself as if he were somehow his own god. Insanity. I've become very cynical of humanity, despite me having a human ancestry in some ancient world. But I guess it's something you have to deal with. The only hope now is that on Judgment Day, at least, everything will be set right after that. But until then, I am not confident. I fully expect to, well, face the consequences of my actions, good or evil, disproportionate in a world that is so marred by sin and corruption, where true justice cannot be found in this life. But enough of me rambling. You have a good night, good sir. And I'll be down into my sorrows in this beers and drinks. Good night. Oh, and I hope you had a happy New Year.